Hello everyone and welcome to our fourth episode of Bridging the Evidence Gap. My name is Alice Obrecht and I'm a research fellow here at ALNAP. For those of you who listened to our previous webinar episode, you will notice a common theme between these two episodes. Over two episodes of this webinar, we're looking at the challenges faced by humanitarian organizations in insecure settings. These are contexts which feature active violence or conflict, and where this violence, along with other factors, can lead to barriers for humanitarian organizations seeking access to people affected by crisis. Now, the previous webinar, which was chaired by my colleague Alexander Warner, was looking at this issue of monitoring in insecure settings. So how can humanitarian organizations monitor needs and monitor their projects in settings where having a physical humanitarian presence is quite difficult? If you missed that episode, please go and check it out on our website. The transcript and the audio with the presentation files are online. But today we're going to be looking at a different question, one that is slightly more basic, but it's also one that hasn't really been answered very well to date, which is who is actually operating in these settings? Which actors are in the hardest to reach humanitarian settings, and what are they doing to meet needs? This is the question of humanitarian presence, and it's a really important one for helping us understand the coverage of humanitarian assistance. That is, how successful is humanitarian assistance at meeting the needs of the worst off? Well, today we have two fantastic speakers to help us puzzle through these issues. The first is Abby Stoddard, who is a policy analyst and partner of the consultancy team Humanitarian Outcomes. And she'll be talking about the unique mixed methods approach that Humanitarian Outcomes recently used to get a more accurate understanding of the realities of humanitarian presence on the ground and an understanding of what factors are shaping presence. We're then going to hear from the practitioner perspective, and for that we have Sandeep Bashyal, the Information Management Officer for OCHA Afghanistan, who is joining us from Kabul. Sandeep will be talking about the multiple tools that OCHA is using beyond the 3W sheets to answer the who's out there question on the ground in Afghanistan. So that's who we are today. We'd now like to learn a little bit about who you are. So you'll be seeing a poll appear on your screen, and please fill that in while I cover some brief housekeeping points. We've limited ourselves to two speakers today, as we'd really like to leave a lot of room for questions and discussion, and because the two speakers that we have such rich experience and expertise on this issue. So many thanks to those of you who have to all of you participants who have submitted questions beforehand. We've already woven those into the discussion questions towards the end of the webinar today, but please do keep submitting your questions throughout the conversation. To submit those questions, there is a question box in your webinar menu on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will be doing our best to incorporate as many questions as possible. Many people continue to ask us about whether or not this webinar will be recorded, and the answer to that is yes. You will have access to an audio as well as video of the presentations and their slides in about 2 to 3 weeks' time, as well as a transcript. You'll also see today, as we go throughout the presentations and the Q&A, links to relevant websites and pieces of research that both Abby and Sandeep will be talking about, and those will be appearing in your chat box. So keep an eye out for that. I think we will close the poll now. Good. So we have a lot of people with general interest in this in a professional capacity, and some who are using data on humanitarian presence, and very few who are collecting data, and that might be because of the difficulties in collecting this data. So it's a good thing we'll be talking about how to improve our approaches and our methods in doing this. And so to get us started on this, we're going to turn over to Abby Stoddard. I've already given a brief introduction to Abby. Abby is a very well-known, I think, humanitarian researcher with extensive expertise in humanitarian research, including as the lead author of ALNAP's most recent edition of the State of Humanitarian System report from 2015. But today, Abby's going to be talking with us about research that she's carried out as part of the SAVE research program. This is the 3-year research program on secure access in volatile environments funded by UK DFID, and is the first major effort to answer some of the world's most critical questions about how much aid is getting to war zones and how much that aid is helping. There are three components to this program. Elias Sagmeister from GPPI was on our previous webinar talking about the monitoring component, and today Abby is here to discuss the unique methods that they've been using to get a better empirical understanding of humanitarian presence and the factors that shape this in insecure settings. So we're looking forward to hearing from Abby, who's going to be giving us a presentation that covers both the, the findings that they've obtained from this research, as well as some of the method. So over to you, Abby.